Okay. Good
Morning.
morning.
Good morning.
Today we're going to start on right after the Mishnah on Hey Amid Aleph, 5a. Thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day. In the schus of our learning, we should have the base of Mikdash. Also learning for Shlema, for Father, and for Naftali, and Rifmela. We learned in the Mishnah a bunch of opinions. And we really have to go through it again. The one opinion was the opinion of Reb Meir that says that there's only one animal that's brought as a sacrifice. Even if the entire congregation sins, all 12 tribes sin, they only bring one animal as a sacrifice. If it would be Avodah Zarah, then it would be two animals. But basically, the par helem davar shel tzibur, the sacrifice that's brought when the Beis Din makes a mistake, is just one individual animal that's brought, according to Reb Meir. According to Reb Yehuda says no, all 12 tribes bring a sacrifice. So it's going to be 12. Reb Shimon says that it's going to be 13, the 12 tribes plus the Beis Din. Okay, that's the very general machlaikas. Then, what happens if not all 12 tribes sin? Let's say only 7 sin. So Reb Yehuda said, first of all, Reb Meir says that they only bring one animal. It's the majority, but they bring one animal, like we said before. Reb Yehuda says that not only do the 7 that sinned bring a sacrifice, but even the other ones get dragged along to bring the sacrifice. Reb Shimon said that no, only those 7 that sinned bring the sacrifice together with the Beis Din, which makes a total of 8. That's Reb Shimon's view. Okay, then let's say if only one tribe sinned. This was the third machlekes. One of the tribes sinned. So that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's chayiv. We don't have Rabbi Meir's opinion in this. Rabbi Yehuda holds chayiv. Chachamim say that you're only chayiv if it's the Beis Din Agadol. You see, this last machlekes was if a Beis Din of one of the tribes made a ruling, which was a mistake, and that tribe followed through on that ruling, so Rabbi Yehuda holds that only that tribe is chayiv, the other tribes are not. Right? Remember, Rabbi Yehuda said all 12. Well, now he says only one, only that one. The Chachamim say that an individual Beis Din that makes a psak doesn't bring this. This is only if it's the Sanhedrin. Okay, so our Gemara today is going to go through all the missing pieces of information, try to figure out what this opinion would hold in that case, what this opinion would hold in that case. And Taner Rabbanan. Start off with the Bryce. It says, Yadu Shahayru V'Tom Shahayru. Yachol Yu Chayavin. Very strange case. Cases where the Beis Din made a psak about chaylev, that it's permissible to eat the forbidden fat. Now, the entire congregation ate the forbidden fat, but they also ate blood. Now, at a certain point, the Beis Din says, "Oh, we don't know. Did we make the psak about the forbidden fat or about the blood?" Now, the blood must have been a mistake as well. There was they weren't sure if they ate the blood or whatever. So we have two mistakes going on over here. One is a mistake of the Beis Din, and one is a mistake of the people. Now, the Beis Din doesn't know which one was their mistake. But they made a mistake about what they made a mistake about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One time I thought I was mistaken, but I was mistaken. So Talmud Laimar, the pasuk says that they don't have to bring a carbon for this. It's not that the people know that they sinned. That's not the issue. It's the one that made the ruling has to know that they sinned, and they have to know what the sin was. Okay. So it's not enough that they know that they sinned. They have to know exactly what the sin was. Let's say 2 of the tribes sinned. They bring 2 animals. Chatu Shleisha, if 3 sin, Meviim Shleisha, they bring 3. Ayena Lachatu Shnei Yechidim, maybe Shnei Parim, Chatu Gimel, Meviim Gimel. How do we know that it's the tribes? Maybe it's just the individuals. You know, there's a detail in this. I'm not sure if the Gemara is asking. I mean, the Gemara clearly knows that if an individual does a sin, that he has to bring his own sacrifice. It's not the par, it's a kiss per sira. So this must be not just an individual, it must be that a lot of individuals are still going to be exempt from Shnei Parim. Now, Rashi doesn't spell that out, but okay, anyway, whatever the case is, the Gemara says, Talmud Lema Akol, Akol Chayiv, Akol, V'chol Kol, V'chol Chayiv. This is an atonement for the congregation. It's not an atonement for individuals, and it's only when you have entire tribes. Ketzad, how does this work? If two tribes committed the sin, based on the ruling of the Besdin, which was mistaken, then they bring 2 animals. If 7 sin, then they bring 7. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion was that it's really all 12 are going to bring, but they bring it, they get dragged along with the ones that really have to bring it, the other ones bring it as well. Okay. Reb Shimon says, he argues on Rabbi Yehuda with this. He says, Zayin Shvatim Shachatim Meviim Zayin Parim. It's 7 sins, they only bring 7. Best and Meviim Al Yidei Par, and the best and also brings, so that would be a total of 8. It says below the word congregation, it says above the word congregation, Makal Amalamayla, just like above when it came to the psak, when it came to the verdict, it says Bezdin Imakal. It says that the Einei Ha'eda, the eyes of the congregation, which is referring to the Bezdin. It says Bezdin and congregation. It has them both in one phrase. Also, when it comes to bringing the sacrifice, it's the Bezdin together with the Kal. It means that they're each going to bring their sacrifice. Reb Meir says, Zayin Shvatim Shechata Bezdin Meviim Al Par. The Reb Meir's view was that they only bring 1 sacrifice, even if the whole congregation sins. So the same would be true if 7 tribes sin, right? Vehin Peturim, the Bezdin is exempt. No, I'm sorry, the people are exempt. The Bezdin is the one that brings it. Nemer Kal Lamata v'Nemer Kal Lamayla. It says congregation below, it says congregation above. Ma Kal Lamayla Bezdin v'Lei Tzibur, just like when it came to the Psak. It was only the Bezdin that made the Psak, the verdict. Af Kal Lamayla Bezdin v'Lei Tzibur, also when it talks about the bringing of the sacrifice, it's the Bezdin and not the congregation. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says in the name of Reb Meir, he's a student of Reb Meir. It says Chatu Shisha Shvatim Vehim Rubi Shalkal. If 6 of the tribes, which would be 6 is only half, but 6 of the tribes, which are the larger tribes, that would be the majority of the congregation. Or Zion, or maybe 7 of the tribes. Afal Pishain Rubi Shalkal, even if they're the smaller tribes and it's not the majority of the individuals, right? I'll add it up. Meviim Par. You bring 1 sacrifice. Okay. Just for this, when everyone in the community sinned, so except for some individual tribes, so then those tribes have to bring along. No, by any sin. Now the Gemara says Amar Mar. Amar Mar means that the master, Brisa, mentioned in passing, we went through the brisa. You have to go back and analyze the brisa more carefully. The Amirayim are now discussing the brisa. So we mentioned in the brisa that if there was a mistake and the Besdim themselves did not know what their mistake was, they were mistaken about their mistake. They weren't sure if they sinned about chaylev, if they made a mistake about permitting chaylev, or if they permitted blood. So we said that you don't bring the sacrifice for that. The Besdim themselves need to know what their mistake was. Mantana, whose opinion is this? Amar Rav Yehuda Marav, Bitei Rava. Rav Yehuda says the name of Rav, and some say that it was Rava that said this. So I don't know whose opinion it is, but I know who it's not. It's like Rabbi Eliezer. It cannot be Rabbi Eliezer. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer says the Tanan, it was taught in a Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, this is Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus. He says Manavshach. We're talking over here about a case where a person ate a piece of meat that was either chaylev or nicer, either forbidden fat or it was left over from a carbon. So he doesn't know exactly what his sin was, but he knows that he sinned. Rabbi Eliezer says, well, either way he sinned, let him bring a sacrifice. We know that he sinned. So im chaylev achal chayev. If it was forbidden fat, he's chayev to bring a carbon. Nicer achal, if he ate the leftover meat from a carbon, leftover too long, after the expiration date, which is 1 day probably, then he's chayev. Then he's chayev also, so he has to bring a carbon over there. So if Rabbi Eliezer would hold that you have to bring a carbon even if you don't know what the sin was, but mimanavshach, whichever way you take it, you have to bring a carbon. So here also, whichever way you go about this, whether the Bezdin paskin about chaylev, well, the majority of the congregation ate chaylev. Whether the Bezdin paskin about dam, okay, well, the majority of the congregation ate dam. They should have to bring the carbon. So Rabbi Eliezer would say you do have to bring the carbon. So this can't be Rabbi Eliezer that says you don't. Rav Ashi says, if you'll take Rabbi Eliezer, it really could be Rabbi Eliezer. Shani hachad over here we have a special pasuk that says that they have to know what the sin was. It says 1 second. But there also it says that they sinned, which means they should know what the sin was. There's no. When it says over there that they need to know what the sin was, it doesn't really mean that they need to know exactly the sin. It just can't be a case where, when an individual sins, it just can't be a case where he's misasik. Misasik means that he was lifting up one of the things on Shabbos to. There were two things, two cucumbers. One was attached to the ground and one wasn't attached to the ground. When he cut one, he didn't realize he cut the one that was attached, which means that he just harvested, which is misasik means when you did something that wasn't even like your intention at all. It's an inadvertent action. That's misasik. You didn't even know that that's what was happening. So that over there you're exempt. That's not a shogeg. A shogeg is when I forgot it was Shabbos, I forgot this was Aser, but here you didn't even know that you were doing the Isser. You didn't even know you were doing that action that is prohibited. So that's exempt.
Had you known, you would not have done it. Right?
That's a shogeg. Had you known, you would not have done it. Over there, it's not that you didn't even know that this action was a malacha at all.
Oh, good. Nothing.
Yeah, because it's not that you didn't know that this was a malacha that was aser. You didn't even know that you were harvesting because you didn't know it was attached.
But had you known it was attached?
Then you wouldn't have done it, but that's not the issue. The had you known is what we call a shogeg. If I knew it was Shabbos, I wouldn't have done it. If I knew it was aser, I wouldn't have done it. That's a shogeg. But here, there were two things on the counter, on the cutting board. He cut one. He didn't realize that he had cut the one that was attached to the vine, that was attached to the ground. Yeah.
He's just going to sleep, but you won't keep him. Had he known it was attached?
I got it.
I know what you mean.
Okay.
In this case, it was both options were.
Right. So Rabbi Lezer usually says manavshach, right? I mean manavshach, that you therefore you should be chayiv. And so maybe he would say over here that you really should be chayiv as well. So comes along Rav Ashi and says, but here actually he wouldn't say that.
Why did you say both?
Because
The first one
because
got
we have a
two
special
dollars.
pasuk.
No.
My time at the Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reason for Rabbi Yehuda that Rabbi Yehuda held? What did we say? Rabbi Yehuda's opinion was that everyone has to bring a sacrifice. All the tribes plus all the tribes have to, even the ones that didn't sin. So Kosavar Arba Kalik Sivi. It says he holds that it says 4 times in the pasuk the word congregation. Now it actually doesn't say 4 times in the pasuk; it only says twice. But because it says Hakahal, the congregation, so we consider it like it says Kal Hakahal, congregation, the congregation. We consider it like an extra time, and it says that twice. So it goes like this: Kal Hakal, Kal Hakal. Congregation, the congregation, congregation, the congregation. Chad, one of these terms is l'chayav al kol kol v'kol. Coming to tell me, see that word, al kol kahol the kahol. First one is a kol, and all congregations. Yeah, so which comes to tell me that every tribe needs to bring the sacrifice. B'chad, one of the times it says hakol, is lahira tuluya bebez and amaisa tali b'kol. That it's only the congregation that we're counting here in the sin. We're not bringing sacrifices for the Bezdin. The Bezdin is the one that makes the psak. Congregation is the one that sins. Chad greater. One is that the tribes that didn't sin get drawn along with the tribes that sin, and they also have to bring the sacrifice. The Chad l'shevet she'asa bahiras Bezdin. There's another call that says that if an individual Bezdin made a psak, an individual tribe's Bezdin made a psak, not the Bezdin Agadol, just an individual tribe, and that tribe followed through with that psak, and then it was mistaken, they also have to bring the sacrifice. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. There's some unique opinions, yeah, and where does he get it from? Gets it from the 4 times that it says kol, which is really twice, plus the hays that are on the word. Reb Shimon argues with Rabbi Yehuda. He says that you don't have the ones that are dragged along. He also doesn't have the extra, the individual tribe that has to bring. It says plus a kol iksiv. It only says 3 times kol. Hakahol, kahol hakol. For some reason he doesn't use one of them. Me'eni hakol, because he says me'eni hakol is orcha dekro. That's typical. Kedamri yinshi me'eni deplanya. People say the eyes of so and so. And when they say the eyes of, you're going to have the word the on the eyes, and you say it like that, so you're going to have the hey there, and you're saying that you can't learn from that hey.
And then it's 2 eyes.
No, he's not referring to the eyes, he's referring to the congregation. Eyes refer to the rabbis, the sages. But we say the congregation is not considered a significant extra word, because that's the way it would be typically said. So chad, one of these 3 is l'chayav al kol kol v'kol, that each tribe has to bring. Each tribe that's in has to bring. That's Reb Shimon's view, that each tribe brings. Trei achrini, in the other 2 is nemar lamata kol. Once it says below kol and nemar lamayla kol, and it says above malal and bestinim kol. Just like when it says above, says the Einei Ha'ida, it says the Bezdin with the congregation, the eyes of the congregation. Afkan Bezdinim Kol, so when it comes to bringing the sacrifice, it's the Bezdin brings together with the congregation. That means if there's 7 tribes that sinned, 7 tribes bring, plus the Bezdin, which is a total of 8. That's Reb Shimon's opinion. Reb Meir, what does Reb Meir say? He says, Kol HaKol Leidarish. He doesn't even have any drushes here. Hilkach, Trei Kol Iksivi. So therefore it says twice. It only says Hakahol, Hakahol. Miboyle, Lenemar Lamata Kol, Menemar Lamayla Kol, Malo and Besim Litzi, Bravkan Besim Litzi. Just like the psak came from the bezdin, not from the congregation. So too, when it comes to bringing the sacrifice, it's only the bezdin that brings the sacrifice, not the congregation. Shimon ben Elazar in my time, what's the reason for Shimon ben Elazar? He says that if you don't need to have the majority of the tribes and the majority of the individuals. You only need to have one of them. It says, would be from the eyes of the congregation, Alma Miyuta, Ksiv Mei Eine. It's from the eyes. Ksiv Kilachalam Bishgaga. And it says, because all the congregation did it by mistake, Lememra, Derube, and Miyuta Loi. Means that you need all, not the minority. Haketzad. Also, Vav Vein Rubishal Kol Ezayin, Af Bishin Rubishal Kol Chayavin. So we're learning that you need that a minority is good, but you also need a majority. So how do we have a minority that's also majority? So he says that you look at the amount of tribes, and if it's only 6, that means it's a minority. It's not 7. It's not the majority, but it's still the majority because in those 6 tribes you had the majority of the congregation, or the opposite. You had the majority of the tribes. You had 7 tribes, but when you look at the individuals, you don't have the full. Right?
It's like electoral votes. People voting in the
Right.
Congress.
That's coming up. Okay. Rab Shimon v'Rab Meir Zahirat liya bebezin amaisa talabakal minalahu. We dropped some of the things that we mentioned before when we were talking in Rab Yehuda. We said that the bezdin themselves, if they did the sin, they don't have to bring a special sacrifice. The bezdin only has to do with the psak. The people are sinning. Now we only use that in Rab Yehuda because he had the extra words, the extra call. Where does Rab Shimon and Rab Meir know this? So, Amar Abaya. Abaya says, from the eyes of the congregation, Nasa means it happened. Not that they did it. The eyes of the congregation means the rabbis caused it to happen, but not that they did it. Abrava Amar Milacholam Bishkaga, it says clearly that the people sinned by mistake. We need both of these, Abaya's pasuk and Rava's. Because of Rahman if it was that it happened like passive, that it it had occurred, which means it's not the rabbis that did it, it's only the congregation. Havamina filamiyuta could have thought that even if it's not the majority, only even if a minority, that's to say that when everyone sinned. Because of if it would say that everyone sinned, I would think that the bezdin had to have sinned together with the people. That's why it says that it happened passive, that the bezdin doesn't need to be involved in the sin, they only have to be involved in the psak. But how are you learning this? You're quoting me a pasuk from Avodah Zarah, which is not what we're talking about. It says Yalfina Meine Meine. No, we have a Gzeira Shava, it says by Avodah Zarah Eine, it says by the other sins Eine. So we learn one from the other. Okay. You had a question?
Rufa, the base thing is involved, no, guilty, because the closest one, even though they had nothing to do with it. So is that passive? Is that similar to this? How does that fall? Why
by the Egla Rufa do the Kanim? Why are they responsible?
They should have taught the people.
Should have taught the people. So here, Bezdin is also responsible, right? Bezdin is also responsible because they made the mistake. So, but who brings the sacrifice? It's either the Bezdin, which is Rav Meir's view, or Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon say that it's people that are bringing the sacrifice. I guess they're bringing it on behalf of all the people because of the mistake of the Bezdin, but it's not like still associated with the Bezdin. No, I'm back to the psak.
And who brings the Egla Rufa?
Egla Rufa was the elders.
Basically.
Yeah. Maybe. Heiru Bezdin Shalachad. We learned in the Mishnah, at the end of the Mishnah, that if one of the tribes has a Bezdin that made a psak, that psak was a mistake. So Rabbi Yehuda's view was that that tribe needs to bring a sacrifice. Reb Shimon argued on that, right? Who did we say it was Reb Shimon? No, we said the Chachamim argued on that. They said that it's only the Sanhedrin. Yibaylo. The Gemara has a question. Shevet echad Rabbi Yehuda by Ras Bezdin Agadol. Nimaisi shar shvatim elai. This is what's happening now. We're now mixing. We're mixing other factors in and seeing if the halacha changes. When Rabbi Yehuda said that the one tribe needs to bring the sacrifice, that was when that the Bezdin of that tribe made the psak. But let's say it wasn't the Bezdin of that tribe. Let's say it was the Sanhedrin Agadol, Bezdin Agadol, that made the psak, and it was only one tribe that sinned. So before we thought that you needed the majority of the congregation, which means you would need 6 or 7 tribes, right? But Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that. Rabbi Yehuda holds each tribe is considered a full congregation. That's how we know he holds that, because he says each one of them has to bring their own sacrifice. So how does it work now if the Bezdin Agadol, remember what Rabbi Yehuda held when 6 or 7 tribes sinned, when 7 tribes sinned, the other tribes needed to bring the sacrifice along. They were dragged along. What happens now when one tribe sins from the Bezdin Agadol? Do we say that the other ones get dragged along? Or do we say, no, that's only because that was the majority of the tribes? Or do we say, no, that's because that was coming from the Bezdin Agadol that made the psak? What's the main factor? So the Gemara has this question. It says, "Mi ma'isi shar shvatim elai. Mi amrinan shiva shvatim udemaisi shar shvatim badayu." When it was 7 tribes, then they drag along the other 5. Mishum dikaruba, because they're the majority. Avachad shevet lekarubalai. But one tribe that sinned, it's not the majority. Let them atone for themselves. Eidil malaishna, or maybe there's no difference. Well, Tashima, come and listen. We have a brisa that doesn't tell us who the author is. So it goes like this. Mahem mivian, what do they bring? The brisa says, par echad, 1 animal. Reb Shimon shnei par, Reb Shimon says 2. So the brisa gives us just enough information. Reb Shimon gives us a name, Reb Shimon, which tells us that I know that the Bezdin is going to bring a sacrifice, and I know that a tribe is going to bring a sacrifice. But what happened here? So, b'mayaskinim, what was the case? Ilay meshachatu shiva. Do we say that 7 tribes sinned? So then Reb Shimon wouldn't say 2. Reb Shimon would say 8. Reb Shimon tamnayabai, he would say 8. 8 sacrifices. The only way that Reb Shimon would say that there's only 2 sacrifices is because there was only one tribe that sinned. So b'mai, what was the sin? If it was an individual tribe's bezdin, Reb Shimon doesn't hold of an individual tribe bezdin being chayav. So it can't be the individual tribe. What must it be? Allah b'ras bezdin agadol must be the great Sanhedrin that made the psak. And Reb Shimon says 2 because the one tribe together with the bezdin agadol are 2. B'tanakam mamani. So now who is the first opinion? He named Reb Meir. If we say the first opinion is Reb Meir that says that it's only the Bezdin that brings, so Harubabai. According to Reb Meir, you need the majority of the congregation. I have a solution. I have a way of doing it. I would say that it's Reb Meir, and it's the majority of the congregation, but it's not majority of the tribes. Maybe Reb Meir would hold that if all the tribes are small, except one tribe of Yehuda, let's say, is the majority of the whole congregation, all the other tribes are smaller, then I could get away with this, saying that your mayor holds that there's only one thing, unless your mayor doesn't hold. Your mayor maybe holds that you need both. the majority of the tribes and majority of the people. Maybe, because that was only in Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Oh, Reb Shimon ben Elazar said you didn't need the majority of both. Right? Anyway, whatever the case is, the Gemara says, Elalav Rabbi Yehuda, it has to be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that one tribe that sins, that tribe brings the sacrifice. However, which Bezdin was it? It was the Bezdin Agadol. You see? And so we have an answer that even when the Bezdin Agadol makes the psak, he still only bring one sacrifice, the other ones don't bring along. Gemara says, Amri, shisha shvatim, bin Reuben shall call, Reb Shimon ben Elazar. How do you know that? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's the opinion of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. According to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he holds the Tanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar Mishmai. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, name of Reb Meir, Chater shisha bin Reuben shall call, Shiva af pishin Reuben shall call, maybe in par. Yeah, my answer before is really the Gemara is spelling it out with Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Yeah, so I didn't have anything special to answer. This is the Gemara's saying that it could be Reb Shimon ben Elazar, and you only bring one sacrifice, even though it's the majority of the congregation. So how did Reb Shimon say you only bring two? Yeah, but how many tribes? How many tribes were there? According to Reb Shimon, if there were 7 tribes, you bring 8. So, yeah, so Rashi says, like this, that we didn't really get Reb Shimon's opinion. Reb Shimon's opinion is that if you have an absolute majority, then you bring 7 or 8 sacrifices, each one for one of the tribes. However, if the majority that you have doesn't add up to a real majority, then we consider them all like one tribe, and you only have to bring one for the tribes, for all 6 tribes, let's say. If 7 tribes are not the majority of the tribes, but not majority, then it's all considered one, and you only have to bring one. That's Reb Shimon's view. We didn't have that spelled out before, now we're spelling it out. Rashi says.
Reb Shimon says you have to bring a total of 13.
Yeah, if all 12 tribes. If all 12 tribes sin, then you bring a total of 13. If 7 tribes sin, then you bring a total of 8. And over here, you're saying we're only bringing a total of 2, even though there's 7 tribes possibly that sin. And Reb Meir would say that you only bring 1.
And Bezdin bring 1.
The Bezdin brings 1, and Reb Shimon holds that the Bezdin brings 1 plus the people bring 1. Reb Shimon said before that each one of the tribes has to bring. That's only when you had a full majority of tribes plus majority of the people. Then each tribe is considered significant. Interesting. Okay. Now Tashema, come and listen. Rabbi Yehuda Shevet she'asa b'ras besdinai. Rabbi Yehuda holds that if the one tribe violated this law of eating chaylev because their bezdin made a psak, so is shevet chayev v'shar kol shvatim p'turim. Only that shevet is chayev, but the other shvatim are exempt. B'ras bezdin agadol, if it was a psak of the bezdin agadol, people shar shvatim chayavim, even the other tribes are chayev now. So Shema Mina, that's a clear raya. It's a clear raya. That's exactly our question. That according to Rabbi Yehuda, the other tribes need to bring get dragged along because it was a Sanhedrin. Amar Ravashi says, "Masisin amidek." I can prove it from the Mishnah as well. Viktani v'asa says shevet al piyam. It says that shevet did on their psak. Only that Shevet is chayav, but the other tribes are exempt. Why does it have to say the other tribes are exempt? But Tanais is Shevet chayav. You said that Shevet is chayav. Given the Tanais is Shevet chayav, Memeli Yadan is Shar Shvatim P'turim. The Gemara here is more elaborate than it normally is. I could have figured out the end of it, but the Gemara is elaborating on. You could have figured out the end of the Mishnah without the Mishnah ending. Let's elaborate on that and say if the Mishnah would have said, okay. So then, why does it have to say it? It's coming to tell me that only if it's the psak of its own bezdin, like a one tribal court, that's when the other tribes are going to be exempt. But if it was the bezdin agadol, another tribes will be chayav. The yeshiva has another question. Shevet echad she'asa beiras bezdin agadol Reb Shimon mimaisi elai. Reb Shimon only said that if there were 8 tribes that sinned, if there are 7 tribes that sin, then 8, they're going to bring 8 sacrifices. Reb Shimon never told us what happens if 1 tribe sins. Reb Shimon never told us, okay, so now we're saying, Shevet echad asa beiras bezdin agadol. Tashema, my meviim, come and listen. What do they bring? Par echad, Reb Shimon and Mishnei Parim. 1 cow, one bull. Reb Shimon says they bring 2. But my asking, what's the case over there where Reb Shimon says 2? If we say that 7 tribes sinned, so then Shnei Parim, they only bring 2. Shmeina Parim, they need to bring 8. El Dechata Shevet Echad, it must mean that only 1 tribe sinned. But my, if we're talking about that it was just a tribal bezdin, Reb Shimon Lessa, he doesn't hold of that. El Beiras Bezdin Agadol, must be that it's the Bezdin Agadol. So now we have an answer. Bezdin Agadol makes a psak. According to Reb Shimon, the 1 tribe sins, you have to bring a carbon. The Tizbra, do you really think this? Tanakam Mamani, who is the first opinion? Reb Meir, if it's the opinion of Reb Meir Ruvabai, Reb Meir requires a majority to have to bring a sacrifice. Reb Yehuda, Shar Shvatim Nami Maisi. If it's Reb Yehuda, then the other tribes are also going to bring. Ella Hamani Reb Shimon ben Elazar, it's Reb Shimon ben Elazar, the Tanya, as we taught it before. And what would this tell me now? That it doesn't really tell me if one of them sinned. Over there it was talking about where it could be where it wasn't a complete majority, but not just one individual tribe. It was six tribes. It just wasn't a full majority of. It was 7 tribes, but it wasn't the majority of the people. Tashema, so come and listen. The Chachamim say you only chayev on the psak of the Bezdin Agadol, not from the individual Bezdin. Man Chachamim, who are the Chachamim? Ilay Reb Meir, if it's Reb Meir Rubabai, then you can't just have one tribe sinning, you need to have the majority sinning. Elav Reb Shimon, it must be Reb Shimon. Shmamina, okay. So Reb Shimon holds, the Reb Shimon is the Chachamim. And therefore we now see that Reb Shimon would also agree that if one tribe sinned, but if it was a psak from the Sanhedrin, they would have to bring the sacrifice. Rabbi Yehuda Reb Shimon Shevet Echad Dikri Kol Minalu. Where does Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon know that one tribe is already considered a congregation, and therefore the tribe has to bring the sacrifice? This is a very fundamental discussion here. We're talking about, do we say the assembly, the congregation, is the entire congregation, or is each tribe individually called an assembly, called a kahal? Amri, they say like this: T'ksiv, V'yamid Yeshafat b'kal Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Yeshafat stood in the congregation of Yehuda in Yerushalayim, Nechachatz Beis Shem HaChadasha, opposite the courtyard of the house of Hashem, the new one. Now, what we just saw is it says Kahal Yehuda. Calls the tribe of Yehuda, calls it an assembly of Yehuda. You see that there's one tribe that could be called Kahal. Kahal Chasidim.
Hey, it's across the street.
My Chadasha. Now the Gemara says, like, what does it mean, Chadasha? That there was a new courtyard. that they made a new law. The new law was that someone that was a Tvul Yom that went to the mikveh because he was tameh, but he didn't wait for the evening, didn't wait for sunset, he's not allowed to enter into the camp of Machne Leviyah, which would be the Harabayas. We've discussed before the question that if someone that's tameh can't be in Machne Leviyah, so in the desert, where did the Leviyim live? They wouldn't be able to have relations with wives. They weren't allowed to be in Machne Leviyah. They would automatically be tameh, and then they couldn't live there. They had to have two houses. Problem. Maskefla Ravacha Bar Yaakov. Ravacha Bar Yaakov has a question. Mimai, how do you know that that's really called a kal? Dilma Shani Yerushalayim Davin Avi Binyamin. Maybe because Binyamin was there, so that's why it's called. It's two tribes together. Because Yaakov got a blessing from Hashem. It says, "Behold, I will multiply you, and I will make you great, and I will give you an assembly of nations." Now, Manes Yalda Hushaita, who was born after that blessing? Binyamin. See? So one tribe, the tribe of Binyamin, is called an assembly. Kahal. See from this that this is what Hashem says. You're now going to have an entire new assembly, which is the tribe of Binyamin. Amali Rav Shmuel Rav Kana. Dilma Achi Kamalei Rachmana. Binyamin, who'd have Yud Beishvatim, Mishkas Kal. No. Maybe what Hashem is saying is that when Binyamin is born, then all 12 together will be called an assembly. But not that Binyamin itself is an assembly. Amalei, so Rav Kana says back. So only 12 tribes is an assembly, 11 tribes is not an assembly. So what's happening extra by the 12? That now it's called an assembly. Okay. Tanya, studying the Brisa. Sorry? Yeah, but we said before that two tribes was the congregation. It must be that when Binyamin is born, that's considered a new congregation. And it's each tribe. We're looking for the source that each tribe should be an assembly, a congregation. Binyamin is the 12th. So, but it says you'll now have an assembly. So, what are we referring to? Assembly. Referring to the tribe of Binyamin is considered an assembly, right? Tanya started in a brayso from Shimon Aimer. Ma Talmud Laimar Parshini ben Bakitikul Chatas. Imlamit Shim Shnayim Alik Varnemar Vasas Echad Chatas Vesachadayla. Let's see if we can get through this. It says in the pasuk that they're going to bring one sacrifice as a chatas, and one is going to be brought as an oila. So it says the first one was brought, and the second one will be a chat. What does it mean the second one? Are you coming to tell me that there are two? We already said you already said that there's two. Maybe the chatas should be eaten. The pasuk says no. Parshini sheni la'oila. Second one, it's the second one to the oila. Now, if it's the second one to the oila, ma'oila le'nechel is just like a burnt offering isn't brought. Avchatas le'nechel is also the sin offering isn't brought. We're talking about the sacrifices here for the avodah zarah, right? The congregation that sinned with avodah zarah. Rabbi Yosi says similar to this. It says that they brought sacrifices to Hashem, burnt offerings, 12 burnt offerings. All of them were oila. It says a kol oila sal kadaitach. They were all oila. After shechatas oila, ela kol ke oila. Is the chatas a burnt offering? Rather, it's like the burnt offering. Ma oila leinechelos, av chatas leinechelos. Now, the reason why this chatas is not eaten is because any chatas that the blood is sprinkled inside and it's burnt outside, and it's seirim hanisrafim. This is the chatas that's burnt outside. It's not eaten. B'tani Rabbi Daimar alavedes cham heviam. They brought it on for avodah zarah. We're talking about in Ezra when they came back from the exile. They brought a sacrifice for avodah zarah. Ram Rabbi Daimar Shmuel. Rabbi said name Shmuel alavedes cham shasib made tzidkio. They're bringing a sacrifice now for the avodah zarah that they did by the last kings by tzidkio. Bishleim Rabbi the Mishkach Salahani Shnei Maser Chatais Ken Chatas Shnei Maser Shvatim Meiser Shnei Maser Sirim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, I get why they're bringing 12, because either 12 tribes sinned back then, or it was 7 tribes that sinned. And so if 7 tribes sin, then the other ones have to bring a sacrifice because they're dragged along. Maybe it was 11 tribes. And according to Reb Shimon, the Bezdin also has to bring. That makes a total of 12. According to Reb Meir, where they only bring 1 sacrifice, how are you getting 12 sacrifices? In the Chatava traces Zimni, because they sin 12 times. But the ones that sin, they're supposed to bring it, not others. When do we say that if the owner of a chatas dies, he can never bring it again? That's only by an individual. Because the tzibur doesn't die. Okay, let's leave it over here. So therefore, we're able to bring the sacrifice for the congregation, even though the congregation has already passed away many years earlier. We'll see. We're in the middle of a discussion here.
The 10 tribes are gone, right?
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. What do you want to say? That's a problem.
I guess that's what you're saying, that they're bringing it for even though they're not there anymore.
But it's saying al dor shel tzidkiya shechatu.
Yeah.
By the days of tzidkiya, they weren't there b'chlal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have to check commentary.
Like why we said the Nisim for each tribe.
What is that?
Where we see the Nasi for the Kohen says a Nasi even though he knows what tribe he's from. It's also interesting, right? This is like so much like American system, right? You have the delegates, you have, like you can have an election you have the majority of the states, and then also like this thing about
it's the other way around. So we did copy it does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. And then you have like
Dr. Stein was saying it's like the electoral votes where it's not doesn't work exactly with the people. You have this.
Yeah,
doesn't
like Clinton.
You have different types of majorities. You have different.
Yeah, I think Clinton won the majority like by far, and Trump still won the election. But also interesting, right? So like one tribe makes a psak, and it's so separated where like nobody from another tribe would have followed that opinion just because they're not in that tribe. It's like I guess they didn't have internet back then.
It wasn't United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit how it is like in appellate court, right? You have like the jurisdiction. Each state has its own jurisdiction, its own laws.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very
Have
much.
a good day.
You too.
Wow.